I'm going to talk tonight about a word that we all know called proof. But what qualifies as proof? That is the question. So we know that the word proof means things that validate a statement, something that makes you know that something is true, whether or not it's true. Now, you begin life not really demanding proof. You just consider the statement. Now, you get started off. The first far-fetched things, the hardest to conceive as being true, right out of the womb, are things like where do babies come from? Oh, a stork brings them. That's the story you get told. Okay. You don't understand the weight of a baby compared to the wing strength of a bird. You just take these things for truth. Then if you grow up in a family where you go to church, you hear about God. Well, that offers you, they say, where is God? Where does God live? Things like that. And then you hear that the church is God's house. And you're like, well, where is he? When does he come home? And stuff like that. Well, you can't see him. He's everywhere. If he's everywhere, then why does he need a house? And how is his house if he's that big and he's everywhere? That you just can't wrap your mind around. And that's one of the first story. It's nearly impossible to believe from the get-go. Right when you're young, I think about 3, 4, you really start to well-developed mind, a mind that's going to be well-developed, a mind that has full potential to be fully developed, is starting to question things like that. And along with that comes Santa Claus. Now, the Santa Claus thing, you're given plenty of proof. Okay, with Santa Claus, you can go to the mall and you can see the man. You can sit on his lap. You can tell him what you want for Christmas, and there he is, and he's just like is on all the Christmas wrap. Just like he is on all the TV shows and cartoons you see of him, there he is in the flesh. And you talk to him, and something might rub you a little wrong about the beard or this or that. But you're like, well, you never met the guy. He's got a weird beard. I mean, this guy's got a flying sleigh. He lives at the North Pole. So why would his beard be unweird? So with Santa Claus, you're given a lot of proof. And I can so very well remember being about 5 years old and on Christmas night hearing a radio station playing that's telling exactly where Santa Claus is, what houses he's landing on, basically what cities, houses he's landing on. So much false proof. But at the time, it's proof. It's proof because there's so many people built into the lie of it that it is perceived as truth in your young youth. So that's proof. Okay, and about that time, also considering when I was 4 or 5, I remember seeing a picture. A picture came circulating around my church that I went to, where somebody had claimed to see Jesus in the clouds, and there was a picture of it. And it was fuzzy, and it's like blurry and white, and I'm like, well, where's the flesh tones? Where is the clear definition? This is not a very good picture. It's not very good proof. Because Santa Claus, you can go to the mall and see him and sit on his lap. So I was very dissatisfied with the proof I was being offered. So it's like, right off the bat, the comparison between something that is, in fact, a fallacy to a degree. The whole Santa Claus thing is a fallacy to a degree. I hope I'm not bursting anybody's bubble, but the idea that one man at the North Pole is flying around the world with a sleigh and taking gifts to every good, well-behaved boy and girl in the world is not true. I know. I'm sorry if that really, but it's not. Despite all that proof, all those many stories, all those many shows, it's not true. And what about all that proof? Well, proof can be falsified. Now, I always figured, well, if you had that crystal clear picture, reading other stories of the Bible, like you have paintings of Noah's Ark, but you don't have the picture. In an early young age, I'm like, well, this whole Bible thing, it lacks modern proof. Because the people, you're told, are already been dead and deceased. So you're not going to go to the mall and see the people. And cameras weren't around at the time that they lived. So the best thing you have is somebody, admittedly, hundreds of years later, painting a picture of them, saying this is them. That's them. But it's not proof. It just doesn't even qualify as proof. It's an artist impression of it. So where do we look for real proof for real things? Well, growing up as an adult now and realizing with modern technology and pictures, then after pictures come video. Video is better proof than a picture. Because then, like, say about 9, 10, consider them new, far-fetched, but conceptually plausible things such as the Loch Ness Monster and Bigfoot. There's pictures of the Loch Ness Monster and Bigfoot. Unlike photographs of Noah's Ark or Jesus, there are photographs of the Loch Ness Monster and Bigfoot. They're not bad. I mean, they're not like the cloud formation that I was told when I was 5 was Jesus. They were actually things you could tell were living or in the form, shape of a living entity of some sort. So there's appeared to be more proof, or some proof, for the Loch Ness Monster and Bigfoot in photograph form, but not in the video form, or at least not in video form that I saw. But it wasn't great and grainy, and then goes the same thing with UFOs. You try and look at it in a video and photograph, and it's like, I mean, there's something there, and it's something that looks like it could be a UFO, but it's... So basically what I'm getting at is that photographs and video are not actually proof. So what is proof? What is proof? You have eyewitness testimony is proof. But what is eyewitness testimony? How do you know that this person's not lying? Because people tell lies all the time. And to think that, well, if a group of people tell it, it must be true. But people organize all the time to tell lies. Look at the Santa Claus thing. I mean, that's a billion-person conspiracy, straight out. So, group eyewitness testimony is still not proof. How do you get proof? How do you know something is true? That's what we're trying to figure out. That's what this whole video is about. It's about how do you find out what is true? And eyewitness testimony is a beginning, but then you got to test that witness. How do you know that witness is telling the truth? Well, you grill them. You grill them with hard questions. Because if you grill them with hard questions and their testimony doesn't match up consistently, then you have the possibility of catching them up in a lie. So they might want to submit early on and be like, well, I'm not sure I saw this, but I think it did. That's a good way to start with your eyewitness testimony, breaking it down. Is it true or is it not true? Because we're trying to figure out what is proof. Proof positive, 100% proof positive. So after the grilling If that doesn't break them down, then what? Maybe a little torture? Maybe that'll break their story. They'll admit they're lying. People have all different variances of pain. And there's even some laws against torture, believe it or not. So, it's hard to get to that line of proof because they could just be being very tough because it's like, boy, maybe if they're just resisting this long, they're thinking the whole time, okay, if I just put up a little bit longer, then I'll be validated and I'll be a hero for a lie. No, we don't want heroes for lies. So, how far do we push the torture and punishment to make sure it's true? It's proof. Proof is martyrdom. The only real 100% proof is martyrdom. Because who's willing to die for a lie? Who's willing to die for a lie? That is the whole history of martyrdom. And now that goes back to the church stuff I was talking about earlier. Because so many things, right from the get-go, the Christian faith was built upon one man challenging the existing faith. Now, he didn't challenge it so much as being like it wasn't true. He challenged the practicers of the Old Testament, being like, look at all these wonders that you were given, and look at the little bit of faith and a little bit of carrying out of these orders you did, and you're not grateful for anything. And you think that just if by following these commandments that makes you a good person, when you're thinking the whole time by following these commandments, all right, come on, God, you owe me, I'm doing this, I'm doing the things that you said I was supposed to do, so you owe me. But if there's a creator that created us, is that what that creator wants, is for us to do what he says so he can owe us something? Or if you created something and you gave it life and you made it as beautiful as you could, you might want it to love you back. Well, love isn't the same as obeying. You can, a loving person, you can love and obey. But simply obeying for the reward does not qualify as love. We all obey our bosses at work. Doesn't mean we love them. We just want that paycheck, right? So obeying does not qualify as love. And that's sort of where Jesus said from the get-go when he was taking Mary Magdalene, who was a prostitute, and he was in the presence of the Pharisees that practiced and made diligent effort to practice all the different specifics of the faith. And then Mary Magdalene, a known prostitute, cast herself at the feet of Jesus and cried upon his feet and cleansed his feet with her tears and wiped his feet clean with her hair. And she cried, and like, if you're a man of God, why do you let this filthy woman touch you? And he said, you who think that you are so clean and holy, how much do you love me? Look how much she loves me. She who realizes that she has much sin to be forgiven, loves me more than ye who thinks that you have no sin. Because let's remember, children, pride is one of the 7 deadly sins. Because in pride, we believe that we are deserving of just reward, and therefore no reason to be grateful. In pride, the Pharisees were proud. The Mary Magdalene, whose sins were forgiven because of love, was humble, devout, and contrite. Not to say everybody needs to crumble, but it is to say that simply obeying is not equivalent to love. But that still is not referring to proof. Martyrdom. Martyrdom, he who's willing to die for the truth. Because even after seeing all the wonders the people saw with their eyes, they were hard to believe. But there must be some trick. Maybe we've seen a magician do something that we can't explain, but it must be a trick. So we might tell this magician if the magician claimed that it was 100% a miracle and it came from God. Might say that at gunpoint. There's somebody might rise up, say the mafia or something, might hold a gun to that magician's head and be like, "Oh, really? Are you willing to die for that? Because if it's from God, then you'll just go straight up to heaven. You don't care if I kill you or not." Well, that's what Jesus did. He died because people needed that proof. They're like, hey, even with all the thousands of people that saw the miracles, even with all the testimony, there were still people that required the proof. And the proof was in the crucifixion, because he had every opportunity to get out of that just by being like, maybe I took it a little too far. Maybe I did this or that, They would have conceded to it, but he knew his fate. He knew his destiny. It was told to him by angels. What are angels? Well, all we know of angels is the beings that come down from the heavens and conversed with Jesus. And we know that after the crucifixion, we're told that the angels came and rolled the stone away, and he was lifted up to heaven with the angels. Now, it's 2022 all over the world, and although it might soon be erased off the record, it is known that 2022 is counting back to one event involving one man that created such a ruckus that 2022 years later, the whole world's been counting the years ever since it happened. And if that's not proof enough for you, then his disciples. Afterwards, they all got told, okay, you knew the man. He was a liar, right? No, he wasn't. We saw the miracles. Nah, are you sure it was a miracle? Are you sure? Tell us the tricks. The man had a trick, right? Nope, he didn't. All right, now you're going to die. You sure you're willing to die that death too? Hundreds, maybe thousands of martyrs died for his truth. And we have modern martyrs too. We have Martin Luther King. Reverend Martin Luther King, follower of Jesus. We have Abraham Lincoln, follower of Jesus. We have John F. Kennedy, follower of Jesus. All of them died because they wouldn't bend away from the lie. So proof is in martyrdom, but the problem is the bad guys have figured that out. They realize that when they want to stomp out a movement and to kill the leader of the movement, it doesn't kill the movement, because it only justifies that leader of the movement as being a devout person to what they were speaking. So the modern crucifixion is the alleged claims of their integrity, the alleged claims of their sanity, and 1,000,001 ways to assassinate their character rather than assassinate their human life. So Now we're in a new crisis in finding proof for the truth.